Movie number 1. Paradox. The first movie begins with two men, William and Tom, who are stranded at the bottom of a well. Tom gradually regains his consciousness and sees William in front of him. He looks around the place, but is unable to figure out where he is or how he got there. Puzzled by the predicament, he asks William, who informs him that they are inside a dungeon located in a small city called Doringham. Both of them appear to be residents of the same city, but they have never seen each other before. William then says that he's a blacksmith who has been sentenced to solitary confinement for keeping a forge in Graham Street. Hearing all this, Tom is completely perplexed, and he doesn't understand what's going on. As he tries to remember how he got there, he suddenly notices some broken pieces of a railing. This makes him realize that this place is not a dungeon, but a part of a wellhead at the bottom of his garden. He then recalls that he was installing this well in his backyard to surprise his wife, who will be returning home in a few days. Hearing this, William believes that this guy has gone insane, as the well is in the middle of a courtyard. He further asserts that he saw no garden when he was brought here. There is nothing but walls and sentries. Tom does not believe in him and tries climbing up the well. However, his efforts prove futile as the wall is too slippery. After a few failed attempts, Tom asks William's help to climb out, but the latter believes that it's useless. He explains that there are 3 more dungeons and numerous cells on the surface. He goes on to say that he passed a jailer at every door and saw a dozen men-at-arms patrolling around, along with their dogs. He also reveals about his former cellmate who tried to escape just like Tom, but sadly, he was caught by the ruthless guards, who then subjected him to a brutal death. Not wanting to end up in such a fate, William has decided to serve his sentence without creating any trouble. "Well, this sucks," he says. Amidst their conversation, they hear a loud screaming voice of a woman, appearing as if she is in great pain. According to William, she is probably one of the prisoners who is being brutally assaulted. Regardless, William ignores the sounds and proceeds to recite his prayers, but Tom, on the other hand, refuses to give up so easily and is determined to make his way out. He then climbs onto a ledge and jumps as high as he can. Much to his luck, he manages to catch hold of a metal handle, after which he starts to pull himself upwards. His hand starts bleeding in the process, but it is not enough to stop him. William continues to dissuade him, but Tom eventually makes it to the surface. Once outside, he finds the surroundings to be completely normal. Contrary to William's descriptions, a few moments later, a group of doctors come running towards him and claim that they have been looking for him. Here, a shocking revelation unfolds. Both Tom and William are in a mental hospital where they have been receiving treatment for 7 years. One day, they accidentally fell into the well and got trapped there. Being a mental patient, William had been imagining things and thus narrated the same story to Tom. The movie ends with the doctors rescuing a scared William and assuring him that they are not going to harm him. They're just gonna leave Tom down there, though. Movie 2, Goldilocks. The second movie opens on a planet named Gliese 773c, which is an endless landscape of flat, rocky land, 1,522 light years from Earth. In the middle of this desert, we see an astronaut, Ray Ashford, in a spacesuit walking aimlessly. Unable to find any signs of life, he falls to his knees and cries in desperation. With no hope of survival, he takes off his helmet, after which the screen turns black. He dead. The scene then cuts to 2 hours earlier, showing a large spacecraft with a single hibernation pod. As the pod opens, Ray wakes up from his hibernation and walks towards the control room. He reports the surrounding atmosphere and other mission updates to the base on Earth. Turns out, he is heading towards Gliese 773c for his mission. Following this, he checks the mission log, reports from other travelers like him. Here, we learn that they are all on a mission called Goldilocks, whose prime objective is to investigate various Earth-like planets where humans can survive and make it their new home. Ray instructs his AI assistant Robbie to send a message to his wife Elora, who is also one of the travelers on this mission. However, the AI does not respond. Speculating that it's because of some system failure, he reboots Robbie's operating system, after which it works. Robbie then informs him that there was a circuit failure in the command console, but now it's fixed. Since this failure occurred 8 months ago, it has been preventing Ray from receiving any comm updates. But now that everything is in place, the system will soon carry out the latest updates. Shortly after, Ray receives a video message from his wife, who informs him that she has reached a planet named Kepler 440d. She claims that the planet is beautiful and magnificent like Earth, but its atmosphere is very toxic for any humans to survive. It turns out that the average temperature of the planet is over 500 degrees Fahrenheit, which prevents her from stepping outside. She further explains her predicament. She has lost contact with several other travelers, causing her to feel helpless. As Ray's system updates simultaneously, it shows the status of other travelers as offline. This freaks him out, so he frantically tries to fix the problem manually, but to no avail. As the video message continues, Elora tells him that she detected a flaw in the EM drive that led to circuit failure. This failure resulted in her AI assistant going offline, preventing her from receiving incoming notifications. As a major consequence, her spaceship's thruster reignition system is no longer working, due to which she is unable to take off. Now that she is stuck here, she tearfully admits that she'll live only for 4 or 5 days, until Kepler's atmosphere burns down her spacecraft completely. She bids a final goodbye to Ray, encouraging him to complete the mission for both of them. In a state of panic, Ray promptly asks Robbie about the time when this message was sent, to which it replies, 26 days ago. This leaves him devastated as he realizes that his wife is no longer alive. 2 hours later, Ray lands on Gliese 773C and walks out of his ship donning his spacesuit. He walks across the endless landscape for a long while, but finds no sign of life. At one point, he decides to take a huge risk to open his helmet, despite being unaware about the planet's atmosphere. As he does so, he finds the atmosphere to be human-friendly. This finally marks the completion of Goldilocks' mission. In the aftermath, Ray relays this news to the base, as well as to all other travelers, asserting that he has found a new home for human beings. I wonder if he too is really just in a mental asylum. Movie 3, The Landing. In the opening scene of the third movie, we are introduced to a young boy, Edward, who lives with his father in a Midwestern farm. One night, he is playing with tiny plastic soldiers while listening to a science fiction program on the radio. Shortly after, his father shows up and switches the radio to a news broadcast about the growing communist threat, clearly indicating their differing perspectives. Just then, they are startled by a huge sound of thunder emanating from the sky. They soon witness a meteorite-like object crashing from the heavens right into their field. His father immediately instructs Edward to go inside the house. Must be the commies. While he heads to inspect the fallen object with a rifle in his hand. Not long after, the boy hears a gunshot and notices his father putting something inside their barn house. The following morning, Edward curiously asks his father about last night's incident, but the latter dismisses his concern, simply claiming that it was a meteorite. The boy is very curious to learn more about it, but Dad forbids him to do anything without his permission. Later that day, Edward is playing with his toy soldiers as usual when his father enters his room. As the two converse, Dad admits that he also wanted to be a soldier, but he never got hired. Afterwards, Edward reads his comic book, waiting for his father to fall asleep. At midnight, he quietly walks out of his room and finds his father sleeping. Sensing this as a perfect opportunity to fulfill his curiosity, he heads to the barn house and sneaks in through a window. Once inside, he stumbles upon a secret underground door. He opens it to find something shocking, but before he can react, he hears his father approaching, prompting him to shut the door and hide behind a barrel. The father then opens the underground door and pulls out a man whom he believes is a communist spy. In a merciless move, he ties a rope around the man's neck and hangs him from the ceiling. The boy is horrified to witness this grim sight and sobs. His father hears this and spots him in the hiding spot. He asks the boy not to cry, asserting that the man is their enemy and that they must eliminate him. In the aftermath of this event, the father and son watch the news, which says, mankind's long-held dream of reaching the heavens has finally become a reality. The news tells them about Yuri Gagarin, a citizen of the Soviet Union who has become the first man in space. After a successful launch and single orbit of the planet, Gagarin's capsule re-entered the Earth's atmosphere, making a safe landing. Gagarin then returned to Russia, where he is regarded as a national hero. The scene then fast forwards to several decades later, when Edward is seen in the hospital visiting his dying father. As he passes away, Edward places a toy soldier in his father's hand, praying to fulfill his dream in his next life. Movie number 4, Lazy Boy. The opening scene of the fourth movie features a guy, Ray, who is seen reading a newspaper while having his breakfast. During this, he notices a garage sale advertisement mentioning that someone is selling several household items at a very cheap rate. Thinking that it is a beneficial deal, Ray immediately heads to the sale venue. On his way, he finds a kid climbing climbing a tree, appearing as if she's trying to get something down. However, Ray doesn't pay much attention to this matter and enters the vendor's place. As he goes through the stuff on sale, his attention is suddenly grabbed by a recliner. He tries by sitting on it and finds it comfortable. As a result, he quickly purchases it without even bargaining the price. While settling the bills, the vendor advises him to use the sofa wisely. Ray doesn't understand why he's saying so, but before he can question him, they hear a sudden breaking sound. It's probably the same child from earlier, who might have fallen off of the tree and gotten hit by a white van. Later on, Ray is sitting on the recently purchased recliner and watching a TV show. A short while later, his pregnant wife Sarah arrives home from work and notices the new sofa. She is clearly upset by this, as she believes that he should stop wasting his money on such useless stuff. But Ray explains that he got it at a very cheap rate, so he bought it. This is exactly the kind of non-logic that prompts me to keep buying games on Steam. Following this, Sarah enters the kitchen, while Ray pulls a lever on the side of the recliner to relax. Surprisingly, he sees the same scene repeating on the TV show he's been watching. Moreover, Sarah arrives home from work and greets him in the same way as she did just before. Confused Ray asks if she just entered the kitchen, but she believes that he's joking, so she dismisses him and walks away. Later that night, Ray is drinking his coffee while sitting in the same recliner. Amidst this, he inadvertently drops his coffee, causing the cup to shatter. Not wanting to clean up the mess, he pulls the recliner's lever to relax, but to his shock, he notices that his coffee cup is back on the table intact. Suspecting that he has traveled back in time, he proceeds to test his assumption. He watches the clock and pulls the lever, only to discover a shocking revelation. Time gets reversed by 1 minute. With this realization, Ray carries out numerous other tests. He drinks a can of beer and then pulls the lever to enjoy the same beer again. Overjoyed, Ray decides to use the newfound trick to earn money. He then starts betting on the dog race, placing his money on the winning dog. Over a very short interval of time, he earns $1,000, which he uses to do more shopping. The next morning, Ray confides the recliner's mysterious power to his wife, who is obviously unconvinced. She instead ends up scolding him for being a lousy father who does not even think for his family. She also tells him to be more serious and get a real job. Hearing all this, Ray becomes sad, so he pulls the lever and travels back in time. In this timeline, he decides not to tell his wife about the secret time-traveling power. After Sarah departs for work, Ray continues to think about his next move. He suddenly remembers the same child from earlier and decides to save her life. Following this, Ray starts pulling the lever numerous times until he travels back to the previous day. He then runs towards the same tree on which the little girl had been climbing. He arrives there just in time and rescues the kid from the imminent accident. But at that moment, Ray notices the previous version of himself entering the vendor's place and paying for the same recliner. All of a sudden, the same white van appears from behind and hits him. Here it's revealed that the one who got hit was not the little girl, but the future version of Ray, who traveled back in time. At least, he got to drink a bunch of free beer. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.